Good afternoon and welcome to the ASEAN Midday Market Watch. Our guest today is Jeff Halley. He's the Senior Market Analyst at Asia Pacific at OANDA. Jeff, great to have you on the show.
Thanks very much, Brian.
Now, before we get you to give your insights, let's take a look at what's happening across the region. Now, it's a mixed bag across. So we start with the Nikkei, which is at 26,760.43. It's down 0.17%. Now, the Shanghai Composite is at 3,409.31. It's up 0.13%. The Hang Seng is in the red. It's down 0.67% at 26,499.9. The ASX 200 is down 1.1% at 6,681.90. The Kospi is down marginally. In fact, it's now up marginally at 0.04% at 2,771.50. And closer to home, we've got Bursa Malaysia trading at 1,651.36, down 1.37%. So it's the worst performer of across the region. And the SGX is down 0.25% at 2,851.01. So Jeff, what do you make of the mixed markets across the region?
I think we look at across the market today, we're seeing some comments out of the US fiscal stimulus talks where they're hitting a roadblock on basically the Republicans are trying to block the ability of the US Treasury and the Federal Reserve to reinitiate emergency lending programs, the ones that they used in the early part of COVID-19. That seems to be causing some last-minute hiccups. Asset markets rose overnight on the expectations that we were moving towards a conclusion to these negotiations. That seed of doubt seems to have caused some profit taking or for Asian markets to retreat slightly today. In the case of Malaysia, and I believe also in the case of Australia, those markets have fallen harder because of COVID-19. That's COVID-19 amongst those very important glove makers in Malaysia, which has seen I think quite a lot of profit taking happen in Malaysia, which has outperformed this week. But this outbreak in Sydney seems to be spreading quite quickly, and that is sending quite a lot of shivers through Australian markets at the moment.
Now, moving on to Japan, about 2 hours ago, the Japanese government raised its economic forecast for the next fiscal year. That's primarily due to their latest stimulus package, which they've now extended. Now, what should we read into the various BOJ announcements?
I think it was pretty much as expected. The Japanese have been doing supplementary budgets for 2 decades, and the Bank of Japan has been quantitatively easing for at least 10 years. So I think what we're seeing there is perhaps a continuation of the dialogue we see at other central banks around the world, in that they're going to do what it takes to make sure that the economies remain supported by monetary policy and to aid that recovery as it takes hold in 2021. I think that's the underlying message, which is consistent across the central bank sphere globally.
Now, so I've got to be cheeky and ask you, so what sort of trade should we be looking at doing based on this Japanese positive data?
Probably not a lot. I think, you know, the Bank of Japan is, I think, the largest owner of equities in Japan now, because it's been buying ETFs as part of its quantitative easing program. I think what we can see there is that the Bank of Japan is going to be there on any sort of dips in Japanese equities, especially amongst the main board stocks. So investors can probably buy or be long Japan into the new year, knowing the Bank of Japan to a certain extent has its back. So I think that's the main takeaway we can take from that. Otherwise, really, the whole world is on hold, waiting for the outcome of these US fiscal stimulus talks.
Yeah, but you know, commodities are not, because copper prices are near their highest levels in 8 years. You know, as stockpiles have been growing around the world, following very much in suit iron ore prices. Now, where is the demand coming from amidst really a poor global economy in 2020?
Yeah, well, part of it's also a supply issue with COVID-19, particularly from the South American suppliers. So that's really disrupted those supply chains. China blocking Australian exports has probably sent a few shivers through the markets as well. But we've seen a huge increase in electronics demand this year for obvious reasons, and I expect that to continue into next year. A lot of things inside electronic devices are made out of copper. So there's that huge demand there. There's a huge demand also from the electric vehicle sector as well, and that's only set to increase as well. But really what it is a reflection of the market's expectations of a rapid recovery in the global economy with rising demand for primary products in 2021. And I think that's going to really start picking up pace in Q2 of 2021. So we can see iron ore, copper, and other key base metal products all showing very strong price rises and high demand.
Now, Jeff, on the other flip side of the equation, some of the bulls have suggested that we're really at the start of a commodities super cycle. Do you hold that view?
I think it's a little too soon to be saying that. I mean, it really depends on the evolution of technology. I mean, we could come up with something tomorrow that makes iron ore and copper redundant, yeah? or gold, or as commodities. I mean, it's a bit dangerous to say that it's a super cycle of ever increasing demand for these commodities. Technology has a way of disrupting those ideas. You could have said the same thing about oil in the 1980s and the 1990s, which none of you probably remember, but we were all horribly worried about running out of oil. Yeah, we didn't run out of oil. In fact, we end up with too much of it. So I think it's a little dangerous to say that we're on the cusp of a giant leap in the price of commodities. I do believe commodities will rally next year through 2021, and they will probably rally in the years ahead. But whether we're going to see Bitcoin-like increases, I'm not quite so sure about that. But certainly demand over the next few years should rise as the world economy grows again after this COVID-19 shutdown.
Now, Jeff, thank you for your time and your insights. We've been speaking to Jeff Halley. He's the Senior Market Analyst at Asia Pacific at OANDA. Now on BizTech's ASEAN Midday Market Watch. Now I'm Brian Fernandez. Check us out at www.biztech.asia for business and technology conversations. Our videos are also on Facebook and on LinkedIn. Please subscribe, and thank you very much for watching.